So far, we was creating still images inside the view. Let's look at how we can animate this. In Animation tool, we can have an animation bar down below. For this, we can enable just by going in our toolbar and click on Animation Show Timeline, and you notice it will show down below. It is look like little teeny tiny strip of the bar, but we can expand and access much more. We can access keyframes. We can also access curves and additional manipulation tools that we can work with this. Well, let's look on them in a second. Before we jump to this, let's look what we can actually animate inside the view. And simple answer, almost everything. We can animate everything from the object moving, textures, lighting, volumetric materials, everything we can animate inside the view, which is make it a very powerful tool. And it's no wonder many movie studios actually using these applications to create stunning backgrounds and scenes and environmental in their movies and productions. You can also export some of these animations. Well, for now, we'll just going and create a very simple, right here, our ball. And if I want to animate this ball just to bounce it on the ground up front of the camera, we'll need set special keyframes. So let's look first how we can do manually this. We'll going and then create our, open our time frame. And you notice down below right here, we have it create keyframe option. So it's meaning for any object, we can create keyframe. And if we set our keyframe on automation mode, any changes we will apply to this object, textures, shape, positioning, that will create keyframe for those properties, and it will animate. So let's look what we have. If you notice, we have it our time and we have it our position. We also can pre-animate before our render. So if you drag a little bit more like in a minus, you can create some animations before. This will help you to set your properly objects or properties in a pre-animation position so they're ready on the first frame. Well, let's right click on a keyframe, and it's already enabled after keyframe, but for the first frame you still need inform applications you want keyframe. So we'll go and click add all keyframe to all properties. Notice at the bottom it's appear a little bit square, and I'm going to move right here. We have it in a seconds, so it's mean every 5 seconds will change. You can right click on the timeline in change, for example showing the time as a seconds on time frame, or frames, whatever you prefer. For now we leave it as a seconds. It's kind of easy to work when you have it with real time. And usually my approach to these animations, it is, if you have an object, doesn't matter, some object, and you drop it and you calculate and one and bounce it. So it's like half second, so you can calculate in your head. In all time you usually have it, the diagram you draw of animations when we have it still frame animation. Well, we have it a ball right there. Let's go right now, move it, and let's say and one. We'll have it about maybe a little bit too long, 2 seconds. Yeah, let's leave it as a 2 seconds. And what I'm going to do is take this ball moving and put down to the ground right here, like this. And as I move, you can notice we are, and let me increase right here so we can preview. And by the way, if you hold down Alt and you scroll middle button, you can kind of scroll in, and it does help. See, we can increase our timeline, kind of expanding. And right there you can see we have it set up, and as I change, now I have it another keyframe created. So it's meaning I tell computer from here to motion to this place and create another keyframe. Well, let's create another keyframe. So next, I want to move down to maybe about 5 seconds, okay? And I'm going to take and drag, put it to 5 seconds, and we're going to move this way. As I'm moving, notice we have this red line created, and red line is representing path for our object, path in which motion is happening. So right here we have it 5 seconds, and as I'm dragging a line on my timeline, you can see how it's changed, and it's changing in my active view. So if I have it my active view set on main camera, and I will adjust, and you can preview how it's going. Well, you don't necessarily need to drag this. You can also go into our control, click play, and now in the real time you can see how it's changed. Well, obviously 5 seconds was a little bit too long. It's going very slow. It's okay maybe for some airplane or some other object, but for this maybe a little bit too slow. Well, let's go ahead, we'll go back, and we can adjust. What we can do is take this actual select keyframe itself, and we can drag the keyframe. So I can move this keyframe to 1 second, and I can move this to about 2 seconds. Let's try now. And you can see it's much faster going, because we can adjust keyframe. As you're creating keyframe for the properties, you can delete, add, reposition them, and modify, so they're not a set stone. But be careful when you do it this way, because right now, when is our after key is enabled, if I'm going on a middle and I did not notice, like I'm on a middle timeline, then I select my subject and move it, certainly I created another keyframe. Maybe I don't want it. This is a definitely visible keyframe we created. The problem becomes when you work with a more subtle, like materials placement, some other properties, then you don't notice that you created keyframe, and certainly something is dramatically changed on the middle of your scenery. To avoid this, well, let's go press Ctrl Command Z to remove it. You want to click on a key right here and disable keyframe. So let's go ahead back to beginning. Be sure we select our object we want to do with, right click and disable after keyframe. You'll notice the key symbol become not dark, it become like a light grayish, or it's showing it is not active. This way it's much easier to create. Well, as I'm speaking about properties, let's look on a couple things. Well, going to next keyframe, I can actually take drag and drop to put it on this keyframe, and it's kind of snapping to this. Or you can also going and click on the button that says go to next keyframe. Well, usually it's what we want to do if we want to modify keyframe. What I want to modify in this keyframe, I want to add something more to this. For example, if I look on this ball, it's look kind of fun, but the problem is it does not represent this animatic. It just kind of flying over. So if I want kind of bounce it in the cartoon animations, I want to change maybe some properties, change object shape. So in this case, I'm going to click on the subject, and as it's in the lower point here, let's go bring it a little bit down here, and I'm going to squish. You know, like it's happening on the rubber ball, it's a squishing. Well, I've done this, but right now, if I'm going back, let's go start from beginning and play, nothing happened. And nothing happened because I disabled after keying. Let's go back to this frame, okay? We'll go modify, it's what we done before, just a little bit repositioning and squeezing. And we can enable keyframe, or we can also right click and says add key to all properties. Right now we're adding key to everything, but we can also just specify specifically to the position, orientation, size, or everything. So if you're not sure, just says add key to the all properties. Well, let's go back on beginning and see what's happened now. You can see, but it is squeezing just before it's happening. So obviously it does not represent. Action is not happening, but our ball already, if you watch, start squeezing. Does not work very well. So it's meaning in some cases we need to create pre-animation key, pre-action to log the shape and everything. Animation, what's happening, it says this is our state one of the keyframe, and this is our another keyframe. And between keyframe, view will create all these transitional frames. For example, not just position, but in this case, it's changing also shapes. That will apply not just to the shapes for the future. Keep in mind, it can apply to materials, lighting, and a lot of different effects. Just the shapes, it's a little bit easier for us to absorb what's going on. So what usually I want to do, it is, let's go zoom a little bit more closer to this, to our timeline, and we'll just go one frame. And by the way, you can easily going to one frame by clicking on the next frame play, but we'll just have it one step on a frame. And let's, restore it back to our normal. So I'm putting like this ball right here. Next, we want to go click on our frame and says add keyframe to all. So now we have 2 frames. Let's go start playing from beginning. And now you can see, oh no, look what's happening. You see how it's stretching? The stretching happened for different reasons. We don't even have a frame add. But why does this happening? Let's look general what we have at this time. You'll notice as we're creating new keyframe, our timeline, it's actually a squiggly line. It's not a straight from this going down straight lines. It's a curvy line. And curvy line is give it more natural animations, but it also will create additional problems because any curved line, you have it also handles to apply how much is come and go. For example, if we click on this end point, you'll notice this is handler we have it. And we can modify them, we can twist, and certainly we're changing. Now from this is go on the top if our start point still be keyframe below, the upper gate or top of this area still be about. And if we're going down here, you'll notice we have a very long handle. Look how big is handles. Well, we can kind of modify. We can set this handle a little bit lower, like this, which is making angle less gentle, or what we can say, less curvy. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to just click on that one. Well, if it's hard to click, let's expand. And that's what we're going to look on our curves and our frames, like right there. Okay, so in this case, and you can see on the bottom, it's pre-generate for us pre-animation, so we can preview this. Well, you know what? Let's go to disable our animations at this point. But it does help us a little bit preview. If we're going around, we can preview with those animations. Well, let's look what we have in ours. We have our sphere here. And you know what? I think maybe we should expand. Let's make it a little bit bigger so we can see a little bit easier on that. And we're going in our size. And remember how I said we have those curves line, yes? So let's look closer what's happening. These representing our properties. And it's showing for us the timelines. It's showing all of the animation timeline and showing what properties was keyframed. For example, when we work with a size on the properties on our orb or sphere, you'll notice we have it change shapes only up to 1 second. We did not modify anything after, so it actually did not add any keyframe to these properties. Even we click to says add keyframe to all properties, additional key will create it only if detecting any changes. If changes is not detected, it does not make sense to take additional resources of your system to remember that state. And as we're selecting down below, we enable curves, and you can see right here we have a curves line. So this is help us to see what's going on. Notice we have this Z size, which is in a view Z's go up and down, and you notice we have this curve line now. You remember how I say it's add this smooth stuff, and that is a problem right here. This is where we're changing our size. Even we squeeze at this point, but we still have a problem inside with these lines. So we have it, we can modify multiple ways. We can select this point, right click, and we can say smooth, linear, or step. So if we linear, it's then it will be straight, so it's not be curvy. You can do this way. You can also just take handles and modify with handles. Actually, I think I'm wrong one. Let's go take blue one. Yeah, there you go. And we can go change this to linear. And you can see now it's a straight because it does not have a curving. Size will be kind of going straight. And if we preview at this time, you can see this ball still have it exactly the same size. And as it hitting, it's a squeeze, and after kind of staying. Well, we need to unsqueeze, yeah. So let's add a couple more things till we're here. I'm going next frame. We'll go to our ball, and we'll just go to kind of unsqueeze slightly. And I want to have fun with this. So I'm just clicking left click on a keyframe. So you don't necessarily need to go and select add key. You can also just click left click and it will add key to all properties. Okay, and next we're going a little bit higher. And you know what's happening many times if you see ball after react, go back. And in this animation, is what we're just going to fake this. We'll just go like this, a little bit taller. Okay, let's go add keyframe to this. We'll go a little bit more again, like right here. Let's add taller. And we'll go again a little bit here. And okay, I need to go in different windows like this one, yeah. And we'll just go back. Usually what you want to do, you want to go like bum, 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 you know, kind of jiggling. It's what in classic animations was creating, but we'll just make 2 times. And as we're creating, you can see it does create line. You can also have it a little bit easy by right click and play a little bit with more easy in, easy out, or smooth, or rather easy in, easy out. It is start slowing, accelerate to full speed as you said, and the end is slow down. So it's kind of make a little bit more also nice effect. So we can switch to this. Let's go to our beginning, and we'll click on this window and click preview. Notice what's happened. Boom! See how it's bounced? So it's a very simple animation, but it's creating this effect of the reaction. Why it's look more natural? Because we now assuming and we see 2 objects, and we see one as a ground, which usually we presume as not reactive, and we have another object, and we see how this object actually react with a collision with the other. This is what make a little bit more interesting, realistic effect. The goal actually of this video is not just try to create a realistic, it is look on some properties we can modify here and how animations is work inside the Vue. So if we look, we created those keyframes, we look on the curves, and of course if something animation does not work properly, just be sure you enable curves and go check on the properties. For example, for the size, we have it all this X, Y, Z, and you notice it does not change anything on the our XYZ. It could change if you also modify. For example, if let's go to our, we'll step to the frames, we're going to our collision frame, and if we go to next frame, and for example in this frame I'm selecting, and I just move a little bit more this way, just size only, not even positioning or anything, add keyframe, and as I'm doing, you can notice, look, we now add curve. We add the keyframe also to our Y position. And it's displaying right here as a green curve. You can preview how it's happening. With the curves, you can actually manipulate very easy. You don't necessarily need to manipulate with the object on top. You can also take just a keyframe here and manipulate. You can readjust how much it will affect. For example, I can bring up, take same, my handles adjust here, and each property you can modify as well individually. So I don't necessarily need a keyframe all lined up like it's right here. You can see all keyframe. You can take some keyframe and move with them, and as we're moving in line, it's adjusting, but adjusting only for this specific property. Like right here you can see Y, and a keyframe for the Y was adjusted. So you can modify all those keyframes for each individual properties and everything. You know, in the more advanced things, you actually can link the animation properties for each of them to specific events. So you can publish them as a parameters or do other things and make other objects interact with this or react on them. And of course, most advanced one animations, you can use it by writing Python. But you know, I did only a couple times write Python animations for these applications, and mostly to try it, because at least almost everything I can resolve through the interface. Well, let's preview what we have. We'll go on the beginning and we'll click play, and you can see how it's slow down, boom, and kick. So I think it's kind of fun, easy animations in this to do. Before I told you can modify not just the shape of the object, you can also modify materials. You can modify lighting, intensity of the lights. You can do a lot of things like flickering. So the modify animations of the materials, it's very similar, because if we look down here on the properties, you'll notice we have a property of the material. So let's go ahead on the beginning. And if we have our material, let's select our sphere. And this time you can go and select colors. And you know what? Let's go select to the constant color. And by the way, if you select change something and you don't want create animation key, anytime you almost all need disable after key generation, or with after key you need to be on your first frame. Then it will kind of propagate to everything if you don't have yet key for that specific property. But in our case, because we disable after keying, so we're okay. And I'm going to select, let's go select like red color example here. We'll click OK. And I'm going to add key properties to this. And notice on the materials, I will now have a key right below right here. So let's go ahead. And we'll move to our next keyframe. This is on the Z. I don't want to modify here. And I want to modify when it's actually collided. In this case, I can change, but you know what? Remember what's happening when I change? The color will change all the way gradient to this point. So it's meaning I need to go back in our fixed point before collision and add keyframe there as well. Then we can modify our materials. So I'm going to right click, be sure everything is set, keyframe, add keyframe to our materials, and then I can create it. If for some reason you have a hard time to create, you can also use it a little bit kind of cheat hack. You can just slightly modify material, and then it will create keyframe for this material as well. But well, let's go ahead, and I'm going to next keyframe just for fun right now. You know what? Let's actually do something. We'll go blue. Well, let's preview what's happening. If we're going right there, you can see because we don't have keyframe. Did I change? No, I did not change because I still have my keyframe right here set. Okay, let's fix this one. We have this one. We'll go to here. We'll go add keyframes. And for some reason our material does not animate it. Well, probably we did not enable animation of materials, and it's going because we need the optimizations. For this, we need to go inside the material, and where's a gear? Let's click on a gear, and down below you'll notice it's got animate material surface. So let's enable that. So when we enable it, now we can also create keyframe, and we can modify our material as a keyframing. Notice as we do this, soon when we modify, it's come up and says, do you want to animate? You modify these materials for no zero time, and materials simple can be animated. So it's kind of let us know if our material it will be animated. So let's go ahead and click OK, yes. And now we have our animations. This is done for several reasons, and one, to protect unwanted material animations, because sometimes if you change properties or materials, you want to preserve this. And usually you don't change material, you don't animate materials, with some exceptions. So and that's the reason why that is put it in. But after we enable keyframe and all stuff, you'll notice now we can animate our material. So we click OK, and we'll go back, and you'll notice that our material is changing color as well. Well, let's go back to this material. Let's go back to actually red. So we'll set red here. We'll go back to our beginning frame. We have it red enabled here. And we can always just add key tool properties just in case. And it's our material should be red all over. And of course, now we can modify and switch to different coloring. And you'll notice as we do it, it's a change also. So it's modified to our color that we selected. And you can see in preview. Depend on what preview you set, it's not always will be visible because sometimes need to refresh it. But general, if we click, let's click preview here, you'll notice material does not change here. However, in preview, it will change. So let me show you example. We'll stop here, and you notice ball is blue here, and if we're going, and when our preview, it's a red. So in this case, you kind of need it render preview, but don't be discouraged or shocked if you look in your main camera and you see it's a still have the same color. The preview window is what will show you correct. You can change this also showing in preview, but for this you need increase render and other properties inside, and it will slow down a little bit your development, so you maybe don't want to do this. Well, okay, here we look on some render proper on some animation, inside the view, and this is just a very basic and beginning. Some of you maybe was so basic you follow sleep. Well, that is okay, because in the future we'll go with a little bit more advanced animations options, but it is good place to start with animations. Beside making animations inside the view, you actually can import and you can export animations from view. For example, if you have plants that affect with the wind, you can actually export that object with built-in animations. Or most important in our case, we can import some of these animations. Let's see what we can do to import animation. For this, let's go create a brand new scene. And we're just going to select which one. Should we go just a basic daytime? Okay, right here. And I'll just select one. Operation connected to the internet. Okay, so we need to download atmosphere for this, and I don't want download right now, so we just open very basic spectra photometric atmosphere setting. To import animations, we're going to use the Dall Studio. You of course can work inside the poser as well, which is work just fine. Right here we have a Dall Studio, and I'm going to just import simple zombie animations. We're going to select our zombie figurines. Let's go ahead and open. So there's our figurines, and we want to be sure that we actually select it properly so we can select our figurines. Let's go back, and I have some animations that already pre-made for the zombie. It's what we're going to use it, and I'll select our object. I'm just going to click and apply to our zombie. Well, let's go look Windows panels, and we're going to animate light just to preview our animations, and there you can see our zombie is walking. Okay, to export we have multiple options. Some of them you can export like FBX, which have animations. However, I found in some cases animations not always export properly. So the best things what I work with about this, it's by using collada format. So let's go ahead, we'll go File, Export, and as export we're going to select collada, and let's just have it our zombie selected. We'll save it, and the other options when we start export, we want to actually, well, I'm going to override because I would kind of play with this, but we want to go click on a custom. You can use a generic collada. Most important is going showing individual settings. We need to enable on this, and going down to animations and be sure the animations is checked, included transformations and morphs. So we want all animations is there. Well, we have it collect all map surface. So everything seems like okay, and we'll just click accept. After this, you'll notice it start exporting cloud. It should be very fast. Let's go now inside the view, and the view we're going to file, import object, and we're just going to select our from Collada object. Let's go ahead, click open. We don't need it enable any of these properties, with some exception. In hard surface objects, you maybe want to increase smooth geometry, because sometimes I notice normals maybe does not work properly and you have it like darker areas. So just keep an eye open. If you have some problems with some texturing or surfacing, you maybe want to enable smoothing geometry. Again, for the organic or for the shapes, we'll just leave it here and we'll leave everything as default. Let's go ahead and click OK. And notice as we importing, if it's have a timeline, it's actually will showing for us in our time frame. So it will open if we have any animations. Right now, let's go take our camera. We'll go a little bit closer to our zombie right here. You can see we have our zombie, and let's go click on preview. Active camera, click play, and you can see we have a perfect zombie walking towards us. So in this case, we imported the figure with the texture and everything, and it's already pre-animated, so it saved a lot of time for us. Next step, you can combine this animation with animations inside the view. Well, let's look. We have a pre-animated object here, and we have it our camera. What I'm going to do, select our camera, and just says add key to all properties. Next, I'm going to take and move maybe zombie around this area. Okay, let's just kind of zoom out a little bit of our timeline, because we have quite a bit seconds. I think it's a 7 seconds. I did not see before. Yep, it's 7 seconds animations. So we can go and move just slightly about here. Next, we're going to take our camera and we'll just move it away, and we'll point towards our zombie. Almost look like we're running away. Next, we can go ahead and just slightly pre-adjust, like bring camera on the middle. And you can also modify this as well. So if we just put it a little bit out, you can see now we move our camera. I did reposition a little bit point of the focus or interest for our camera, but you also can easily track this. So if you're going with a camera and we select properties for our camera, we can modify some of the points right here. If we look, you see how focus going way far away. We can enable our focus on specific subject, or we can track this. Well, let's go do this. So we'll go enable here. We'll go to our motion, and notice on object we have it tabs. We have it properties, and we have it also motion. It's a basic motion we want right now. And when the track, we can down click and select the zombie. So in this case, we don't need to worry about our camera as we're moving around. It will always point to the zombie. So let's look example. Right here is our positioning. And if we're going to all the way to the end, let's go move our camera to this point. And now I'm going and put my camera a little bit away. Notice the position on top right here. My camera is actually keep it zombie in scene. And this is very nice if you want to create rotational camera. And we don't need necessarily to do just this. We can also go like up above, you know. So in this case, let's preview what we have. And we'll go in the beginning. And now you can see we have it more interesting. Our camera become alive. So it's orbiting around zombie and going up above and look from top point of this. So now we have it, this interesting animations done with our zombie, and we have it properties on our camera. And if you remember before, I told you can animate a lot of things and you can link. You actually can technically have it parent-child link, where you can create propellers on your helicopter to rotate and save this animation separate. I'll show you There's some tips and tricks later about this, how to do this. But generally, right here, we have our main camera. We did modify it. We did not link. And linking it's another thing because you can actually take camera, link to the object, so it will follow the object as object going around. Very cool shot if you do behind like rocket or airplane or something. We also have it postponed, lose or effect, and that will create realistic look. Let me explain. So if you have a camera and you record it and something going, you not always just keep it track. You kind of a little bit behind, just a little bit delay maybe. And this is what it does. So if we're going a little bit more on the loose, let's see what's happening now. And you'll notice the camera, see how it's going out of shot, and camera try to catching up with this, but lose it's maybe a little bit too much, yes? So let's go back, select our camera right here, and then we can modify our main camera. Well, till we're here, let me disable after exposure, maybe enable. Okay. So this is kind of cool things that we can modify and change these properties as it's going around. Okay, let's go back to tracking our zombie. And we don't want, just let's leave it perfect for now. But these options is where you can go and modify and adjusting behavior of your cameras. You also can just add even shake to your camera, you know, like in hand handle and other things. If you have a hard time to look on these properties, Animation Wizard is actually very helpful. So let me show you what is Animation Wizard is. Let's create a ball in our scenery, and I'll just put it behind. And maybe a zombie was chasing by a brain ball or something like this. So I have it right here behind, and then we'll click and open Animations Wizard. We want to be on a first frame like always. And this will guide you from each step. If you don't like Open Animation Wizard, you can uncheck. It's when showing anytime when you create new animations, automatically will pop up, and you don't necessarily need it. So you can uncheck this box if you don't want it, but I'll just keep it. We'll go to the next, and notice we have all predefined motions here as well. We have it standard motions, smooth velocity when it's kind of accelerating and very smooth, nice. We have it a look ahead. Look ahead when it's camera just look and turning, it's going a little bit before that. So airplane, so it's again look a little bit ahead. Helicopter, have it from ground a little bit. So all of these different type of the air vehicles, ground vehicles, so you can select which one you wanted. In my case, I'm just going to select missile. So we're going missile doing out of the ball. Next, we can also customization options if you want to go in details, like what is a rolling sensitive, how much of the rolling on air, accelerations, how fast it will accelerate or deacceleration. Also, you have it all of this pitching, how it's going up and down. So you have it all this fancy type motion you can apply. We won't do right now. So next, we'll go next, and notice this is how you want to do motion. So you can repeat the motion, you can loop, you can cycle or do once. This is very nice if you want something, have it looping animations, put it somewhere, or save loop animations and import after another application. You want to go over and over, so it's a very frame to frame, so it will be nice. We'll just use it once, and right here it's have it indicate what object should orientation of the object, because if you have airplane like need going with a nose, so you don't want airplane flying sideways, yes, and there's the way you set your orientation with this. Velocity, well, let's go set easy in, easy out, so it start very slow, accelerated, and just before it deaccelerated. We can always change these properties afterwards. You remember, if we're going down to our curves, we can always change there. So let's go ahead, we'll go next, and here if we want additional, so spinning, what it does, its object will start spinning on an axis like this, maybe rotation, other things. And you remember I tell you vibration, so you can also add that object little bit shaking, vibrating, very on a camera look like you handheld cameras. So maybe I have it vibration, and the frequency right now it is 100 times per second. I want to just make a 5 times per second. And intensity, 5. So I don't want very high intensity, just slightly kind of motion, give it life. Let's go next. And here we have it waypoints to add. So this is our beginning. And we can add like waypoints be right here to the camera. There you go. So we add our. Notice you can edit, delete, change. We'll just leave it as default. Let's go click next. Here we have it preview. Notice this bump top. This is actually zombie. So what this animation says, oh, you have an object up front of this. I need to go above this. This very useful when you do fly in an airplane and you may be going like canyon and you want to take airplane and fly between, you know, all these mountains, everything. This is actually very cool, can go around or over, so create very natural things. Durations 5 seconds. Well, we know it is 7 seconds, so I'm going to put it 7 seconds. We'll go next. Here we have it our preview. Let's go next. And you notice it's still, hey, this will open, and we'll go click finish now. Well, let's preview what we actually done here. And you can see the ball going behind, go left, right, all this stuff, boom, going around our zombie and stop it. So we just add very simple and easy way to animate. Of course, it does not work for every object or whatever you want to animate, but it's work great for the cars, airplanes, maybe flying balls like this who want to hit zombies. So it can create a lot of interesting animations here. Well, you know what? I actually don't want, I want to render my zombie, yes. So if I go ahead and click delete my sphere, it deletes sphere and animations and all properties as is what you're expecting from this. But if I go and delete all of my animated objects, my timeline is still open. So if you don't like it, you can always go ahead, click and close your timeline. Closing timeline does not remove animations. Animations keyframe still be there. They just hidden from view. It's nice if you work and you need more space to work with yours. If you also click on a zombie or other areas, you can see some path is showing. Like right here, you can see path for our camera. Notice it's showing a native path that we're creating, our path that we created for zombie right here. It does not showing this motion because it is embedded with the imported object. So if you don't see motion path for your specific object, it does not mean it not exists. It's maybe hidden because object was imported. Okay, well, we have some cool stuff done here. What about if can we combine with different type of animation inside the view? And also another animations and already kind of pre-built in, it's a reactive animations inside the view. And reactive animations can be on moving clouds, pre-animated. You can have it plants, and plants can affect with a wind and a breeze and other things. So, and this is also will create another animations. Well, what we're going to do is create one, maybe, let's go look lower polygon. And I'm going to select some of the plant. I just like how that plant looks. It's look very cool. Well, we're going to place here. Maybe, you know, just a little bit this way. Let's go next. We'll go click and select our animations preview. And if we click on preview, there you can see we have our zombie walking, we have a plant on the background, and plant will be also animated because it is with the wind. If you don't want animated plant, remember inside the atmosphere editor, you also have it right here, effect on the wind, where you can enable or disable breeze and wind on the plants. But you know, then it will look static and does not look fun. So I would kind of recommend just keep it on. But also here is where you can modify effect how pulsations on the wind work on the plants and other things. Well, I think this is kind of very cool options. Of course, in the future, in our advanced animations, we'll look on more how to create complex animated objects inside the view, how we export them and reuse after as VOB. We also will going to look on animations lighting, materials, more level depth in this, animating water surfaces, because that has become, and as well animated fog and ground effect. Well, in this case, you know what, let's actually go back, and I want to save these animations. So what I'm going to do is take my sun of this kind. I want to create a little bit more dramatic look for my view. So I'll go behind. Let's drop a little bit lower. So there you go, we have a little bit more dramatic, I think, look. And we'll go to Atmosphere Editor, and inside Atmosphere Editor, I want to boost up just slightly quality to at least 0. Pop up aerial perspective, haze, ground fog, just create, you know, a little bit of background kind of. We could animate also clouds, but I want to look ugly. So we'll just leave it like this. Okay, we'll just leave here. And then next, what we want to do, be sure we animate it properly. For this, we're going to right click, go to Render Properties. And Render Properties, you want to use it broadcast. Usually before we're using Final, because it's have a transparency, it's render everything. But Final does not render motion blur. So it actually give it this like more realistic look in our animations. So be sure you have it at least broadcast is enabled. And you can notice right there, we'll have it enable motion blur right there, enable motion blur set. So this is what we wanted. Next, you can actually select how you want it. Render destinations, actually camera view, or we want to render to screen. If you want to save it, let's go in, we leave it everything. However, with animations, you also can create multi-passes and everything. If you want export all of your animations and put, for example, After Effects or to the Nuke or any other application, and post work in compositing with your real video. So you have very advanced options here can be. The next option, what I will kind of recommend for you, you have it reuse it like indirect lighting if you have it. If this is more going with your user settings if you're going inside, and this is allowed you to save on some shadowing like pre-lighting effect, but we'll just leave it as default. Here everything will apply to deformations. Remember how we deform before objects, we don't have it, so we don't care about motion blur on this. Physics accurate, we don't care about any of these reflections, so that is all good. I think that's all nice. We also can enable GPU anti-aliasing if you need it. In my case, probably because I have a good video card, but we leave it here. You can render a lower or higher resolutions, and I'm going to just render, let's go look at televisions, and we'll just go with widescreen format. Actually, you know what, let's go televisions or widescreen. Let's go with televisions 16:9. So yeah, we'll go with this, and we have it in 920 HD resolutions. You can always create higher resolutions if you need it, but for the animations, I'll just go and create something smaller because it will take effect. Will go down here, and we also want to be sure if I click right now render, see what's happening. So I click on the render, and it is actually render just one single frame, so it does not render for me animations. And it's okay to do because sometimes you maybe want to go ahead and preview one single. So we want to render our animation, and for this we actually need to go down below and click in our timeline to render. So this is object. If we left click, it will give it us more on the render options. So it's similar what we have it rendered here. We want to be sure it's a broadcast set, but here you have a little bit more options. For example, you have it options what you want to render. For example, let's say 24 frames. We have the same resolutions as we set above, and you can render entire animations. It will render as AVI or MP, whatever you set, or you can render separate frames or sequence in specific. So for example, if you have your animations is going 20 seconds, but you want to render maybe like only 5 seconds in specific to test, see how it's work, you can render by selecting sequence and specify time frames or frame times or frames you want to use it. Also, you have additional channels if you want to render as images. And you'll notice we have it alpha, depth, and all other optional. As well, you have it your multipass, it's what we said, all these options. As well, if we're going down below, you have your resolution, type of the render, time code if you embed. You also play animation after it's complete. We don't care. The other options, what you want to look, it's advanced animation options, which will include what type, if you have it anamorphic screen or you have it square pixels. This is a little bit more advanced kind of filming. But in this case, you can match with maybe camera if you're using compositing for your animations in your film. So right here, you can actually modify this adjusting. And of course, additional film interlacing for the old, mostly almost nobody will use now. And automated illumination baking. This will kind of save some time depending on the render, because it will take lighting and kind of think about this as a will fix shadows, so it does not need to go pre-pass all the time. Don't do this if you have it changing lights. If you have some animations within the lights, then you don't want to do this. So I'm just disable for now. We'll click OK here, and when you're done, just click render animation. Because we disable after baking, you can notice this will create every time. So it's going first baking on the lighting and after create another. So it's going to render. Right here we have it as 7 seconds, and 7 seconds we want to multiply by 24, so it becomes 196 frames. So it's meaning it's need to render 168 images. That's what need to render. Depend on the speed of your computer. It can take time, could be just fine. Just let you know, I did some renders animations that is took weeks actually put it on my node systems. So just expect it depends on resolution quality. It may take some time. Well, let's go ahead, take a break right now and come back when this is completed. Because in my settings I was set as individuals images for each frame to render, I end up with a set of the 168 images. And you can see right here it's from 0 to last. Actually, it's 169, I think, will be images if we account 000. And I did not give it name, so it's put it on title and also automatically add what type of the frame. You don't require to use it single frame ensemble after. You can render it just as MP4, and I'll show you in a second how to do this, or you can render already created animated file. But if you think you will do a little bit more advanced with your images, I would recommend use as single frames, because in this case, if for some reason some frame does not look right, you don't need to re-render all animations. You can just select specific frames, and remember when I showed the range before, you can go in the range and specify what frame you want to re-render. So you can actually fix much easier this way. And this way you have it single frames and you can combine them in a way you want it afterwards. But it's okay if you don't have it. So how I said, you don't need to do this way. You also can go in animations, and if we click on left click, go in options, you'll notice right here where is the channel file, it says color. So you'll just click on a browsing, select destinations where you want to save, and as a type, let me name right now, okay? As a type, you click down on file, and from here you can select what file you want it. MP4 will be animated file. So if I'm select animation MP4, you can click save. Also in the corner, sometimes it's pop up this teeny tiny menu. You maybe miss and kind of looking around, and this just set what type of encoding you want to use it. Drop down, you can see full on compress. I mean, it's just like image and stock. And if you think you will do a lot of processing afterwards, I would say go and you want animations. Then I say go with full frame uncompress. It will generate a huge file, but every file, every image, every frame will be uncompressed and easy to manipulate. Otherwise, you'll have it between frame compressions, mostly with MP4, and then it's not really editable between each frame. It's kind of a little bit harder to do this. And also you have it all as different FFmpeg and other ones. We'll go just select MP4 100% quality. Let's click OK. When you're done with this, same, just click render animation, and you'll notice it will be doing same things as done with images, only on the end. Instead, split them and putting like every frame here, it will just create a one single file which called MP4. But other small things, it's if you're interested in how long it will take time, it also will pop up this kind of small pop-up window which tell what frame is currently rendered and how much time it will take it. Notice it's my case, it says it takes 17 more minutes to render full animations on this resolution. And if I'm going with 1080p, it's meaning that resolutions will increase about doubling, so that my time probably won't be 18 or 17 minutes, it's probably more will be about an hour to do that. Well, and here after 20 minutes of the render, we have our animations completed, and you can preview it's very nice, all put together. However, if you even notice as we're going, it does have this compression problem. It's almost always will have it when you create in some animations. You need to do or uncompress full frame with large resolution to have it best, or going with the single images. As well, if you look on the plants, you can see plants animations is work, because remember we have it breeze and wind is enabled in this case. And this is the easiest way to create animations in Vue. So in our future videos, we're going to dive a little bit more in advanced options with animating inside the Vue. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.